Something's wrong. You can feel it. The tension, the pressure, the panic. Most people are prisoners, and they don't even know they're locked in. The warden? Scarcity. Scarcity of money. Scarcity of love. Scarcity of purpose. Scarcity of life. They wake up every day, stuck in cycles they didn't choose, running on autopilot, chasing crumbs, drowning in lack. But here's the twist. Abundance isn't a reward. It's not something you earn. It's something you align with. Because the universe doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to frequency. And until you tune into the metaphysics of abundance, you'll keep recreating the same empty story. New job, same paycheck. New partner, same pain. New year, same fear. You think you're in control. But unless your soul is synced with infinite intelligence, you're just playing dress up in someone else's scarcity. Because everything physical starts in the invisible, on earth as it is in heaven, as within, so without, as above, so below. And if you're not vibrating abundance, you'll never live abundance. Let's go deeper. Here's what most people miss. Everyone wants abundance, but almost no one understands what it really is. They treat it like a prize, a finish line, a paycheck, a title, something you get after you've suffered enough. But abundance was never about reward. It's about resonance. You don't chase it. You tune into it. And here's the trap. Most people grind themselves into the ground trying to force abundance into their lives, without ever becoming the version of themselves that can hold it. They hustle, they sacrifice, they burn out, and then wonder why it never sticks. Because it's not about working harder. It's not even about money. It's about identity. It's about alignment. It's about the signal you're sending to the universe. Until you upgrade your internal setting, your emotional default, your beliefs, your self-concept, you'll keep attracting what matches the old code. You're like a radio trying to hear jazz on a frequency that only plays static. It doesn't matter how loud you turn it up. If you're on the wrong station, you'll never hear the music. So stop asking, why isn't it working? Start asking, what am I tuned to? Because your life will always echo the station you're on. Let's go deeper. Let's define abundance for real. Forget the buzzwords. Forget the Pinterest quotes. Strip it all the way back. Abundance means this, more than enough, that's it. Let it marinate. Let it dig through all the places in you that forgot that was even possible. More than enough time, more than enough peace, more than enough clients, more than enough clarity, more than enough you. Most people hear abundance and they think cash, numbers in a bank account. But that's only the reflection, not the source. Abundance is a state of being, not a stack of paper. The reason people can't receive abundance is because they've been taught to limit it, to think it only comes one way: a check, a job, a win. But the second you define abundance with limitation, you shrink the channel it can come through. If your subconscious believes abundance only shows up through one door, you'll ignore the 10 other doors that opened while you were distracted. That's why most people stay stuck. They're not poor, they're programmed. And here's what makes it worse. We grow up repeating the opposite of abundance. I don't have enough. I can't afford that. That's too expensive. It becomes your native tongue, and you don't even hear it anymore. But your subconscious does. The universe does. And it's not responding to your desires. It's responding to your dominant frequency. You see the goal. You dream the dream. But you're still looking at it, instead of looking from it. Big difference. Because as long as your desire feels separate from you, it will stay separate from you. That's what no one tells you. You don't chase the goal. You become the version of you who already has it. And from that state, you create. That's the shift. And that shift changes everything. Let's take this even deeper. Because if you miss this part, everything else falls apart. This is where people get stuck. They think they're chasing goals, but they're actually running from lack. They build the vision board. They recite the affirmations. They work 3 jobs, but it's all rooted in fear. Fear of going back to zero. Fear of ending up like their parents. Fear of being overlooked, unchosen, unseen. And fear has weight, heavy weight, and that weight becomes your frequency. So now you're grinding hard, but vibrating low, and life mirrors back what you're actually carrying. You hustle with the right goals, but the wrong energy. That's why it never clicks. That's why you always almost get there. Because energy doesn't care about your effort. It cares about your alignment. You can't lie to frequency. You can't manipulate vibration. You say, I am rich, but your nervous system is still bracing for an overdraft. You say, I am love, but your body's still recovering from abandonment. The universe hears your frequency, not your fantasy. You get what you are, not what you wish for, not what you plead for, not what you post about. Let me give you an example. A man wakes up every day visualizing success. He says all the right things. I'm a millionaire. I'm abundant. But his every move is driven by panic. Every decision is made from survival. He doesn't invest. He hoards. He doesn't collaborate. He competes. Because deep down, he doesn't believe it's safe to relax. So despite the vision board and the morning routine, he's just rehearsing scarcity in a nicer outfit. That's the virus. It's not in your words. It's in your wiring. And it runs quietly, making choices for you, pulling strings in the background. So affirmations, they're nice, but without emotional alignment, they're just noise. Now we shift from wishing to embodiment, from saying the right things to being the right thing. Because when your identity changes, reality doesn't need permission. It just reconfigures itself around your new truth. So let's break the code. Let's rewire your system. Let's rewrite what you believe about yourself. Because the only thing standing between you and abundance is the part of you still convinced it's impossible. Let me show you how deep this goes. There's a spiritual law most people overlook. It shows up in scripture, psychology, quantum mechanics, everywhere. But we miss it because we're too busy trying to survive to see the pattern. It goes like this. You can only have what you already have. Read that again. Not in your hands, in your spirit, in your mind, in your identity. You want more money? You have to become the version of you who already has it. You want the relationship? You have to embody the energy of someone already loved, already chosen. Because the universe doesn't respond to begging. It doesn't respond to hoping. It responds to frequency, to possession. The Matthew verse, to him who has, more will be given. But to him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. Sounds cruel, sounds backwards, but it's not. It's the law. Because when you have, you vibrate at having. And that vibration attracts more of what you already possess energetically. When you don't have, or worse, when you believe you don't have, you activate the opposite frequency. You start moving from fear. You start thinking from lack. And even if a blessing shows up, your energy will reject it. Not because you didn't want it, but because you didn't recognize yourself in it. This is why people self-sabotage. This is why they push away what they prayed for. They never updated the internal software. They never believed it was already theirs, and you can't sustain what your spirit doesn't believe you deserve. That's the real battle. It's not the world against you. It's your old programming against your new future. So we do the work. We unlearn. We rewrite. Not to chase the blessing, but to match it. Because the second you vibrate as if it's already yours, the universe stops testing you and starts delivering. Let's get to the root. Because underneath every habit, every doubt, every fear, there's a frequency. And that frequency comes from what you believe is true about you. Forget motivation. Forget discipline. Those are tools, temporary fuel. What really runs your life is your self-concept. Who do you believe you are? Because that answer shapes everything you attract, everything you tolerate, and everything you think is even possible. If your self-concept is rooted in struggle, you will always find a way to struggle. Even when money comes in, you'll sabotage. Even when love arrives, you'll push it away. Even when peace shows up, you'll start chaos just to feel familiar. That's how powerful frequency is. You could walk into a room full of blessings and walk out with nothing, just because your energy wasn't tuned to receive. So we have to go back, not just mentally, but vibrationally. What's your base frequency? What emotional state do you wake up in without trying? That's your foundation. And if that foundation is built on fear, guilt, shame, or lack, no matter how many affirmations you speak, they'll crack under the pressure. So we shift the base, we reset the emotional thermostat. Instead of chasing peace, you become peace. Instead of chasing success, you embody success. Because frequency isn't created by force, it's created by feeling. You can fake words, you can fake actions, but you can't fake vibration. The universe doesn't respond to what you do, it responds to what you are. So if you want to attract differently, you have to feel differently, consistently, authentically. This is why healing matters. This is why stillness matters. Because clarity doesn't come from more noise. It comes from silence, from tuning in, from resetting what you believe is possible. You don't rise to what you say, you rise to what you are. So ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? What do you expect from life when you're not forcing optimism? That's your root frequency, and until you shift that, nothing else sticks. Now let's talk about the fuel. If frequency is the car, emotion is the engine. You can't drive transformation without emotional power. And here's where most people stall. They try to think their way into abundance. But the subconscious doesn't speak in words. It speaks in emotion. That's the real language of manifestation. Not how many times you say it, but how deeply you feel it. You ever notice how trauma only takes one moment to rewire you? One accident, one betrayal, one heartbreak, and suddenly, your nervous system is never the same. One moment changed everything. So why can't the opposite be true? Why can't one powerful, emotionally charged moment of abundance change you just as deeply? It can. But most people never give themselves permission to feel abundance before they see it. They think it's backwards. They think, I'll feel peace once I get the money. But the universe says, you get the money once you feel the peace. That's the inversion you have to master. Because until you train your nervous system to feel secure now, you'll keep attracting things that match the tension you refuse to release. This is why peace is a power move. Because peace says, I'm not desperate. Peace says, I trust what's coming. Peace is vibrational proof that you already have it. And the second you emotionally align with having it, life starts showing up differently. You walk different. You talk different. You make decisions from abundance, not fear. You stop asking, "How do I get this?" and start declaring, "How do I receive this?" That shift, it flips everything. So stop ignoring your emotions. They're not just passing moods. They're calibration tools. They're GPS signals. And if your dominant emotional state is worry, shame, fear, or frustration, then no matter what you do on the surface, you're still tuned to scarcity. But the moment you train yourself to feel gratitude, to feel security, to feel satisfaction before the outcome, you create emotional momentum that pulls the future into the now. That's how you collapse time. That's how you collapse limitation. Emotion is your engine, and peace is the ignition key. Let's make this practical. You've heard people say, energy flows where attention goes. However, your focus is your power. Your concentration is spiritual currency. And most people are broke, not because they don't have time or talent, but because they spend their attention like it's cheap. You scroll for hours, consume chaos, worry about things that aren't even real yet, and then wonder why your life feels so scattered. It's because your focus is scattered. If your mind is the projector, your focus is the lens. Wherever you aim it, that's what expands. This is why some people always feel behind. They're constantly aiming their attention at what they don't want, what they fear, what they regret. They're tuned to problems, so they keep broadcasting struggle. But if you shift that focus, if you put all your energetic bandwidth into what you want to feel, what you choose to create, the universe has no choice but to respond. Not because it's magic, but because that's the law. You become magnetic to the things you consistently dwell on, especially when those thoughts are backed by emotion. That's the key. Focus plus emotion equals frequency, and frequency creates your life. So take inventory. Where does your focus go when you're not controlling it? Does it drift into fear? Does it spiral into doubt? Does it default to worst-case scenarios? That's your spiritual budget, and you might be in the red. But you can shift it, starting now. Focus on peace. Feel it. Focus on success. Feel it. Focus on already having it. Feel that. You don't need to fix your whole life today. You just need to reclaim your focus one moment at a time. Because when you focus like a creator, you stop reacting like a victim. And that's when things change. Let's talk about hell. Not the fire and pitchforks version. I'm talking about the one you walk through every day without knowing it. Hell is not some far-off punishment. Hell is separation. Not physical separation from God, because that's impossible, but vibrational separation, spiritual misalignment. That moment you believe you're alone, that you're not enough, that you have to hustle just to be worthy. That's hell. Because in that state, you've disconnected from your divine identity. You've bought into the illusion that lack is normal, that struggle is noble, that survival is the only option. But here's the truth. You weren't built to survive. You were built to create. You weren't built to chase. You were built to attract. And as long as you operate beneath that truth, you'll suffer. Not because God is punishing you, but because you're punishing yourself with small thinking. And that's what spiritual misalignment does. It robs you of clarity. It distorts your reflection. It makes you forget who you are. This is why people stay stuck. Not because they lack resources, but because they've forgotten their source. You are not disconnected. You are distracted. You're not unworthy. You're just unaligned. So realign, return, reclaim the frequency of the divine. Because heaven isn't just some place you go when you die. Heaven is a state of consciousness you enter while still alive. And when you remember who you are, when you vibrate from that place of truth, that's when abundance becomes inevitable. Not forced, not faked, felt. That's heaven on earth, and it starts with alignment. Let's bring it closer. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. Your reality isn't a random collection of circumstances. It's a mirror. Every experience, every delay, every blessing is just your internal world showing up outside you. If life keeps handing you closed doors, it's not just bad luck. It's feedback. You don't need to fight the mirror. You need to change the image it's reflecting. That means adjusting your identity. That means rewriting your beliefs. That means releasing the patterns that no longer serve you. When you walk into a room with confidence, people respond differently. Not because they changed, but because you did. When you expect more, you attract more. When you believe you're enough, life stops testing you to prove it. And here's what most people never learn. You don't need permission to shift. You just need conviction. Your new reality starts the moment you decide, I no longer identify with lack. From that second forward, every word you speak, every decision you make, every room you walk into, becomes part of your new vibration, and the mirror will adjust. It always does. Because life doesn't lie. It reflects. So if you want to see something different, become something different. This is where we seal it. Not with hype, not with fluff, but with presence. You've heard enough. Now you feel it. The truth isn't complicated. It's just been buried under noise. Here it is. You are already enough. You are already aligned. You are already chosen. Abundance is not a goal. It's a reminder. A reminder that you were never separate. A reminder that you were never behind. A reminder that your reality is yours to command. So lock in, not for a week, not for the next trend. Lock in for life. Rewire your emotional patterns. Restructure your beliefs. Rebuild your identity around truth. Not fear, not trauma. Truth. Because when you lock in on truth, everything that isn't true will fall away. Scarcity, doubt, shame. They can't survive in the light of awareness. This isn't just a video, it's an initiation. A call to remember what you've always known. A call to rise. So breathe, recalibrate, and walk. You're not becoming abundant. You are abundance. Now live like it.